All right, welcome everybody. Excited to jump in. We're going to be talking about all things CX. A good friend of mine, Adam, coming from Yofi, is joining us. Adam, thanks for jumping on, man. And how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Gabe. How are you?
Yeah, well, man, talking all things CX. You've got an interesting story. I'm excited to kind of dive in. Before we do, though, maybe give us the quick overview. You know, you got kind of a fun background. Tell us kind of a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm glad you think it's fun. I think it's chaotic.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
I've essentially been in retail SaaS or e-commerce SaaS my entire career. And then 3 years ago, I started a men's golf wear brand called Tilly Golf. So that's given me a little bit of a behind the scenes
My
as to
goodness.
how a
Yeah.
company operates and deals with customers and develops products and uses technology, you name it. So that's been a fun experience. And then, yeah, you'd mentioned Yofi. I joined Yofi the beginning of this year, and we've gone through quite a fun journey sitting in the returns space,
Yeah.
specifically fraud.
Yep.
Well, all things policy fraud, I should say. And we were recently acquired by NoFraud. So that's been yet another fun,
That is a
chaotic
little
journey
we
that I've been a part of.
we probably need to double click on all three of those. So chaotic maybe is the better. I was thinking fun, but chaotic could also be.
I embrace the chaos. I
Yeah.
love it. When I say chaos, I mean it in a little bit of an optimistic way.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's
For
not the
sure.
right choice.
Well, I did want to actually dive into those three topics briefly. So since you ended with that one, yeah, like for people who aren't as close to it, no fraud, Yofi, what's the connection? What are you guys going to do together? Give us that quick kind of story.
Sure. So Yofi, a really small startup. There's maybe 10 of us when I joined,
Yeah.
and I was leading go-to-market sales, essentially wearing a million hats from a sales, partnerships, go-to-market perspective. I joined these, I call them crazy, kooky founders. They're wildly intelligent. Alex, Jordan, and Andrew. It's the three of them. Alex and Jordan are siblings, and they've built something really special in the policy space and found a niche that just did not exist. And that's that the future of fraud lives in customer support, and CX teams are dealing with it. They're suspicious of these things, and they've never been able to confirm their suspicions. And
Interesting.
Yofi was built to do just that. And so what makes it, and I can double down there, but what made it such an interesting, it's an acquisition from NoFraud, but a merger of our companies, our people, our technology. And what makes it so special is NoFraud lives in this traditional payments fraud world. So your credit card fraud, your chargeback fraud, those types of things, just like some of the other key players in the space. And Yofi rounded out the offering to be fully comprehensive. And so it was a marrying of
Hmm.
companies
Hmm.
in all the best ways. It's a perfect fit. Quite excited to be a part of this new joint
Yeah,
entity.
man, kudos. It sounds like it's a great fit. I think the market was always interested when big news splashes, and it seems like there's a lot of cool synergy there. So congrats to you and the team. All right, man. Well, let's hit into number two, this golf thing. And then we'll get into just the regular CX stuff here in a minute. Where did that come from? I mean, just an avid golfer. You felt like there was a need. You just wanted to. I mean, you've been doing e-commerce and brand stuff for years. You're like, you know what? Rather than kind of be on this side, I want to be on that side. What was the kind of the genesis of it?
I get asked this all the time, Gabe, and there's a
Or was
moment I
it this moment
remember,
in time where you were like, oh,
but it really wasn't. I'm soul searching for a business to start. That was
got it.
never the case. It was
Okay.
one of those things where, so the story of the brand, it plays into kind of the origination and just the creation of the company. But the story of the brand is Tilly is the nickname of a golf course designer by the name of A.W. Tillinghast. He designed some of the most famous
Yep.
golf courses in the nation. So Winged Foot, Baltus Roll, Bethpage, where the Ryder Cup was just played.
Yep.
There's a few courses here native to me, one of which I caddied at here in Minnesota, called Golden Valley Country Club, now called The Club. They went through a rebrand. And so I was distantly related to him. I found an old scrapbook, believe it or not, from my great grandpa Clark
Dude,
Tillinghast.
that's a way better story than I was thinking you were gonna have, dude. What do
Yeah.
you mean? This is phenomenal. Yeah, far finished. So you're saying there's some potential. This is like a relative. There's some connection
Yes.
there. Oh wow.
Yeah. So he went by Tilly the Terror. That was his nickname. And so I figured, hey, true golf psychos know who he is, and people that play at his clubs, of course, know who he is. The general golfer does not, and so I thought it would be a very fun way to pay tribute to him, with its subtleties. But I also found that in golf, it was the way I describe it is golf was really boring for a long time, and then it came out and it was crazy kooky patterns and flamingos, neon flamingos on
Totally,
our
totally.
polos.
The whole, like, Adam Sandler making fun of it, Happy Gilmore style clothes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't love either, and so I wanted something that my 7-year-old dad would wear and my 18-year-old nephew would wear, and so, that was kind of the embodiment. So it's pretty, a pretty wide range, but something people are comfortable with. Everybody's like, "Oh, on the course and off the course," and that's such I don't believe that. There are some pieces that you can, but yeah, I wanted to bring modest fun to golf, and that's kind of what I'm
I
calling
love
it,
it, man.
but
That's a way better story than I was expecting just some I don't know, I
yeah.
just was feeling, but you actually has a connection. It sounds like that was, had no clue. I'm a random golfer, so never heard the name, but I'll probably never forget it
Now
now.
you'll re now yeah, now
Tilly the Terry, that's what he went.
yeah. Yeah, he created some pretty difficult concepts in golf,
Yeah,
in the early 1900s and also was
yeah.
a consultant for the PGA, was a professional golfer himself, so
Wow, way back when. That was, like, when it was just getting going. That's crazy.
and I've embraced it, Gabe. I have to call it out. I've embraced that early 1900s. It's called the modern hickory era. I play full time with hickory clubs that are over 100 years old.
Goodness.
So,
Oh,
yeah, if you ever check out my channel, I even made a set for my 4-year-old out of hickory. So, yes, I've embraced the brand
I'm like
all
lear
in.
I'm like learning I've never even heard of hickory clubs. I mean, that's like what they originally used to golf with, I guess is what you're saying. Okay, I got it, man. So just to finish that thought, so you're an origin so you take these old school clubs and you walk I assume you walk the course then, and that's old school golf. That's kinda what your brand is. I
Yeah.
love it.
I have elements of that glorious these vibes
Yeah, man.
in my pieces. So that's one of the things that you know, I think is really important to
That's
embrace
awesome.
it. And then
That's awesome.
I think it's quite fun to play with the clubs. So they're literally wood clubs.
Yeah. Fascinating, man. Fascinating. We might have to talk about more about that offline. But we gotta get back to the topic at hand. What,
Mhm.
just one more click on this. What would you say you've learned from being on the dark side, so to say? You know, again, we as kind of technology providers in the CX space experience life probably well, I think it's much different than the brands who have the Black Friday sales, who, have to deal with the fraud that you were talking about. Any kind of aha moments for you as you've experienced kind of being not the dark side, but being on kind of the other side of the house where you're selling obviously some of this stuff, the challenges with creating a product or servicing a product, dealing with the complaints or the returns or what's been that kind of experience for you?
It's given me quite a newfound respect for the CX org
I can imagine.
because I'd never done that and had to deal with things. Unfortunately, I don't have a massive influx of returns. This isn't a
Yeah,
big business
yeah,
by any
yeah, for
means.
sure, for sure.
um, just returns exchanges, issues that come up, product questions. Hey, I wear this size in this polo. What should I be in yours? And I'm like, I've never worn that. I don't know that brand actually. And um, so there's I'm learning every time. And
You'd
yeah,
be surprised at all
it's
the
been a
different
journey.
questions you get, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Gee,
yeah,
there's a lot of questions.
yeah. A newfound
But
respect for
definitely a
CX.
greater appreciation for the teams who are on the front line dealing with all this stuff, especially with all the shopping, Black Fridays, etc. Okay, man. Well, let's flip over to kind of the more general CX side of the house. Again, you're on. You obviously have the side business. You've been working with this tech company, and obviously you guys are merging with NoFraud. But big picture, obviously AI is a big conversation. But what as you talk to some of these brands, what are you hearing out there? What is that kind of 100,000 foot view of challenges or opportunities? What seems to be on the mind of people?
Yeah, it varies. There's this overhype element to it, but then there's this you have to do it. It has it's been a journey. I'll say that. I think first and foremost, everybody should be automating the automatable. Like there are tasks, there are things. That's phase one of AI. That's a very simple application. And so for me in my business, the things I'm doing with Tilly Golf, the things I'm doing with Yofi, the things we're doing with our technology, at its core, we have to automate those simple automatable components. I think as we explore further up and we get into agentic AI and using AI signals to do different things, that's where it becomes a little bit more technical. The exploration is there, a little more hesitation, the impacts, the ripple effects of it all. But I think that's where my head's at
I love it.
is
No, that's fascinating. How are you seeing it in some of your guys' world where there is the fraud? Is AI starting to crack the code? Is it play a major role there? Is it more right now, more about automation? How do you see it then gaining traction in the future in this, again, kind of fraud, warranty, post-purchase placement?
we have to embrace it, Gabe. There's no other option at this point. AI is deeply rooted in what we're doing at Yofi NoFraud, and that's because the fraudsters themselves are using it too. I've described this on a few other of these webinars where it's the AI is the science versus the science. The fraudster using AI versus the brand using AI, and who can be the puppeteer, the artist on top of that. That can beat out the others. Essentially, this is a game. Fraudsters are treating it as a business, and they're using all sorts of wild tactics powered by AI. So if brands, retailers are not using AI to combat this, they're bringing a knife to a gunfight. They really are.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's super interesting. That's not I mean, I've heard about I mean, obviously, we're talking in this whole conference about all of those types of things with AI, but no one's ever framed it like that, that your enemy or there's businesses that are using this to, to penetrate, get into your business, harm it, impact it, whatever word you want to use there. And
You've
if
seen
you're
the gimmicky receipts, right? You've seen those posts. It's like generative AI for receipts, as an example, where you haven't seen
I
that?
have no, I have. I've saw some
Okay.
social. My wife actually, that's random.
Yeah,
I did it
so
maybe
I,
2
I
weeks
know
ago.
that seems silly when it's circulating on LinkedIn and things like that. The reality is fraudsters are taking components of that and using it against brands for fake receipts
Wow.
of purchase in the post-purchase space. Keep in mind, Yofi lives like almost exclusively in post-purchase for these folks
Right.
attacking CX teams,
Right.
and so they're creating fake receipts. Or where we're seeing a lot is the did not arrive, the item not received claim. So claiming a package didn't arrive, or it was stolen, or it was damaged. They're using AI to actually manipulate how the item looks. So it came damaged, a button was missing on this shirt, or even creating fake police reports either through Photoshop or AI.
Wow.
So, unless you have
Wow.
the tools to yes, these are
Wow.
not just
So
theoretical.
sorry. I was going to ask you, what are some of the typical fraud things that brands should be looking for? But I love this AI twist to it. So some of the stuff you're seeing is that there's a missing a button, so the problem's damaged, something like that, and then the receipt. I didn't realize. You think is the receipt starting to become a bigger? Again, my wife just sent me something 2 weeks ago, and she's like, "You think this is real?" And I'm like, "Holy smokes, I don't know." Are those a couple of the major issues that we're starting to see people utilize technology to basically fraud out some of these brands?
You bet. You bet. It's when you think about it, a global retailer has thousands of agents. And even then, there's so many tickets, so many attachments in customer support that there's no way to look at that at scale. So of course, fraudsters are going to try it. They're finding the retailers and brands where it's slipping by, and then they educate folks in fraud community groups to say, hey, it works to take this tactic, this approach, stay under this dollar threshold, use this type of a receipt. Or you're going to need to do a police report. You're going to have to submit an ID. Here's a $5 fake ID for you. Like there are all sorts of different ways that they're going about it. And no matter this is manual for folks. They're not
Yeah.
going to open up and look at every receipt. So it's more of a check in the box. Oh, we got a receipt. Yes, move on. So there's a few
Fascinating.
different degrees there, but, I think we're still learning on the generative AI side.
Wow, that's bonkers. What are some outside of AI, what are just a couple of the typical fraud things that brands should be aware of that happen? Just that maybe you guys have experienced in your more day-to-day business?
Yeah. On the return side, the biggest one is FTID, which is fake tracking ID. It's essentially a manipulation of the return label. You've probably heard of people shipping back empty boxes or sand and rocks in boxes, or we've even had plastic frogs to try to get the weight to be similar. The silly things. I actually consider the empty box that tactic as an easy return fraud tactic. FTID is a more advanced tactic. And that's all based on the policies that brands are setting. They're deciding, hey, should somebody get a refund on delivery? Should they get a refund on inspection? Should they get a refund on scan? And based on the different refund event, the fraudster will take the tactic that will get through. And so even those that have a refund on inspection, Gabe, I'm not even kidding you. They will not initiate the refund unless it's inspected. Well, they're manipulating the return label so that it looks like the package, which doesn't have the items in it, is going to show up at their warehouse. It scans as delivered, okay,
Yep.
but it's not in the warehouse. And then they will chat in, a lot of times using similar sob scripts saying, it's marked and delivered, it's in your warehouse. What do you want me to do? Because I did everything you asked me to. And they'll just take advantage of that CX agent's time. If they don't get the answer, they'll go to the next one. And that's slipping by as a cost of doing business.
That's bonkers. That's crazy. How do you guys overcome something like that? Like, how does technology actually? So, I mean, that seems like that's like impossible. You get the sob story, you get it's checked in basically. I mean, what do you have people like running into the factory to actually, or not the factory, but the shop to see if the goods actually?
Yeah, we have, some of it's the secret sauce, but I think first and foremost, anomaly detection is a big part of it. There are certain tactics, patterns, and anomalies that Yofi's detecting that
Yeah,
fraudsters are following suit. Keep in
yeah,
mind, when I talk about a fraudster, I don't mean you, Gabe, just going out and doing this. I mean somebody that's paying a professional
yeah,
to
for sure,
box and
for sure.
label and pay them through crypto.
Wow,
So we're detecting various forms of that as well as analyzing syntax at scale because these sob stories are not just made up one off.
it's
They
like
found ones
they
that
follow a
work.
certain, yeah, yeah,
Sure. So there's a bunch of different ways and it's a combination of, and thousands of signals that we have to pull in, these outside variables, ones we're detecting ourselves, ones we're using from the brands and their CX tech stack
yeah.
to be able to put together what we call a customer intentionality score, understanding the intentions of a customer and whether they're legitimate or not.
Fascinating, man. And then what do for most of your clients, it is like a fraud score, and then they decide, the agent on what to do. So it's not like it's automatically rejected because I know brands are so conscientious about their brand, right? And their customer experience. So I assume there's some, a leniency that they can decide what to do with that based on the score that happens, right?
Yeah, that's a really good call out. And that's something as we've built out our go to market motion, because again, this is a completely new technology solving
Yeah.
a problem people didn't even know existed. So we've had to overcome that type of a concern. And one of the things that I like to phrase it, it's not the best wording by any means here, Gabe, but yeah, I consider Yofi as the investigators, the crime scene investigators, they're bringing up all the research and the information. We're not the judge and the jury. The brand will always be the judge and the jury. Now that judge and jury can trust you. The more and more they trust Yofi, it's like a knob. They can then create and become more strict and embrace our policies, workflows, and automations based on them further trusting us. And so then, hey, if Yofi deemed high risk, if Yofi says FTID, then do not refund this person, no matter how many agents he talks to or she talks to,
So
and regardless of the tactic. And that's why it's so important that fraud scores and customer intentionality scores live within the customer support tooling. So help desk, agentic AI, this is going to be a huge one, Gabe. You're going to see the Yofi NoFraud suite living within agentic AI next year. It already does. There's some interesting tactics there that we can explore, but it's going to be a huge part of 2026.
cool, man. What does that, just that last part, what does that mean for the common user? So, you guys living within agentic AI right now, it's more of an automation type tool. So what does that mean for the common user?
It means when you're as a good actor interacting with an agent, you're getting a good experience, a delightful experience. That's what it's trained to do. You want to model this. These are becoming people, I say people, but robots with names, whatever but a fraudster also is, AI tends to have like favor the prompter, the person interacting with it. And that's a very, very delicate dance. And so, what I mean by Yofi living within that is an agentic AI and a help desk, you name it, has to have fraud scores directing the approach and the response types. And so, we're going to see Yofi coming in as a signal for agentic AI
Mm.
tools so that they're protected from these sob stories, the tactics, the bouncing around of manipulation. There's a bunch of ways we could do it, but it's very important that we arm agentic AI with fraud scores.
Oh, that's super cool, dude. That's super cool. Wow, fascinating, man. Super fun to dive into that. I thought it'd be great to hit the trifecta, the obviously your golf background, the cool, it sounds like cool stuff you're doing with NoFraud, and also just get your take on kind of the CX space. So always like to ask as we're kind of leaving these sessions, people are trying to navigate the noise. I mean, man, if it's not these brands, they're just getting hit from every angle, literally by fraudsters. AI is now just chirping in their ear, like, do more with less, do more with less. You got Black Friday type stuff that we just experienced. These guys are on the front lines of dealing with some major crap. Anyways, with that said, what advice would you give them to cut through the noise? People trying to kind of do more with less, stand out as a brand, double down on AI. Like, where do you start? How do you do this?
Man, I don't know, Gabe. I'm looking for that similar guidance. I would say folks need to embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
To circle back to the beginning, there's it's going to be an element of learning that comes with new tools.
Yeah.
Yofi isn't perfect, for example, and nor are the tactics that fraudsters are taking. I think brands need to be willing. I'm not saying, hey, be an early adopter, but folks need to really consider the small players out there that are
Yeah.
doing new things. I think historically brands and retailers have had to make decisions and are scared to make decisions because hey, you can never get fired for choosing IBM, right?
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
the reality is you need nimble players, new players using new technology are wildly important when you've got fraudsters and customers and you name it expecting different things.
Yeah.
So, while not
Fascinating.
specific to AI, I think just more generally.
No, look, I think that's right. I mean, there's just a lot going on. I think someone like yourself who's got a little pulse is interesting to hear where you would kind of go. So cool, man. If someone wants to learn a little more about yourself or, some of the cool stuff you're working on, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm trying to be active. I'm trying to listen to my friends to be more active. Tilly Golf, my website,
Check it out.
tillygolf.com,
I'm
and
going to, dude. I'm definitely
yeah,
going to check that out.
and my Instagram. I don't post a ton, but I do interact with my community quite a bit, and I've created a community there. So any of the above.
Okay, man. Well, hey, really appreciate it for the audience. Have a fantastic day.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabe.